Complaining is such a fun way to interact with people. We get to tell stories. We get to gain a little bit of sympathy. We get to engage with our lives with other people. But at what expense? What is it really doing to our lives when we complain? And why do we really never get what we want when we complain about things? Let's go figure this out in today's episode. Let's go. Welcome to Phoenix Rising, a superior podcast for all of your transformative tools for personal and spiritual growth. Let's go get that nugget. Hey guys, it's Jen Mack, Lady of the Mind. Welcome to today's episode where I hope I am finding you accepting your life and going with the flow. If you're not accepting your life and going with the flow, then it is my intention that in today's episode, I give you just one nugget of inspiration towards your transformation. Now, I want to preface this whole episode today with, I am the number one complainer. I complain about everything. But it has come to my realization just in the last few years about what actually complaining is and the detriment, really, of what it causes in my life. And so I want to talk about that today. But I want to say there's this, every time I'm with somebody new that I've just met, maybe I've known in some variation, but maybe not have met in person. And then that person meets me in person. Like, let's say an internet, I'm online with them or they're like we're Facebook friends or something. And then we meet in person. One of the things that almost always comes up after we meet and we talk again is that you kind of complain a lot. I'm like, yeah, I know. So first I want to start with why we complain as a society and even my reasons for complaining. And then I want to talk about the detriment of what it causes in our life, like what it actually does, what we think it does, and how to stop doing it and start really creating the life you want to live. So let's get this all figured out. So the first part is why we complain. Now, I have lots of reasons why I complain, and they're for different reasons, actually. It's kind of interesting when you stand back and kind of assess and evaluate. Why do I actually talk like this? Why does this happen? But I want to start with the society. I think the very, very first reason is the complaining connects us with other people. We're on break, we're at a job, we're on lunch, and we're sitting around the coffee table. We're sitting around the break room table or the water cooler or something. And we complain about our money and the weekend and how much work and how much overtime and how idiotic our boss is and or the weather. I told you, I remember, I did this, there's another episode about complaining. And I remember I was working at this small retail store. I was a cashier. And we had rain, I'm not kidding, for like 14 days straight, which is, we don't always get the best weather in northern Michigan, but we get great weather. But then this was really, really bizarre that it was raining, not kidding. It was like 10 or 14 days in a row. It was starting to kind of wear on us a little bit. Anyway, so now it's this day, the rainstorm is over. Noah has all the animals on the ark and it's this big, beautiful day. It's like, not kidding. It's sunny. It's 72. We've had solid rain for 2 weeks. And this lady walks in and she's a customer. And I'm like, good morning and something. And she's got this major grump on her face. And she's like, yeah, it would be a good morning if it wasn't so hot outside. And I'm like, you've got to be joking me right now, right? And I'm like, well, yeah, but at least it's sunny. She goes, yeah, but it's just so hot. And I made a comment about, we had 14 days of rain, so this is nice. And she's like, and she just could not let go about how hot it was. And it really, we do get some hot days when it gets, in the mid 90s or upper 90s. It's very, very thick. It's humid and seriously thick. But it was so interesting that for 14 days it rained. And I'm like, wow, okay, all right then. Can't see, how do you say that? You can't see the forest for the trees or something like that. She can't see. So that kind of cued me in. That was kind of the first seed that was planted about when something beautiful is happening that you can't turn and look. And that happens. There's some family members that I have that you would say something great like that, and they would absolutely flip it around on its head and complain about said thing. Now, society, to me, I feel like society gets together and they complain because if you get together and you talk about how wonderful things are, Well, then what do they say? You're like a Pollyanna. Nobody wants to be around you, or it's not cool to talk about good things. It's more risky and courageous to be a warrior and talk about things that are obnoxious and things that are you can't have your way and you have to complain about things. Well, yeah, that's true, I guess. But at the same time, let's talk about, in a second, we're going to talk about the detriment to that. Like, what does that actually do in your life? Like, think about the class of people. And you think about those that are happy versus those that are unhappy in their lives, and what kind of conversation do they have? Complainers versus non-complainers. Complainers versus people who think towards positive and go, gosh, well, here's me. I'll think about the rain. I'm like, yeah, I don't like rainy days, but it does allow me to really stay inside and get focused on the work that I do at my desk and on the computer. And I kind of like it because it's different. It's a different kind of day. And we get a lot of rain here, but not a ton. I mean, we get normal rain for, Michigan. It's not this obnoxious. Like I hear about Seattle, Washington gets rain, 90% of the time. We're not like that. But anyways, but then it's raining. I'm like, but it's growing my grass. Like I don't have to... and it's watering my flowers in my garden. Like I don't have to now put the sprinkler on. I don't have to do that kind of work. I don't have to do that. And it's like, so that's kind of nice. And then it allows me to be inside. And then on the sunny days, it's like, see, and it's just beautiful. And I go outside and it's like, you just have to look at the other side of things. Anyway, I'm getting a little off track. But so as far as society goes and the complaining, I am totally thinking that it's about connection. It's also about making change, where you are complaining about something and sometimes it turns a corner where action gets to be put into place, where you start with connection, maybe money, maybe your boss, maybe the work conditions, and there's complaint, and you're just kind of complaining and rallying people, and just it's just conversation. And then sometimes that complaining turns into, let's do something about it, where you move over the line and are wanting to make change. That's when I feel like complaining can be the fuel to light a rocket of change. And I feel like it can be exacerbated when you're getting a lot of people talking about the one thing, whatever they're complaining about. So that's how I feel about society. So now let me give you my reasons why I complain. It's not an extensive list, but it is a list nonetheless. So with me and complaining, I feel like the very first thing is I get to tell a story. I get to tell a story that somebody can relate to. So it's a little bit of connection, but it's about telling a story. And it usually starts something like this. You know what I really hate? I really hate it in traffic when people are so inconsiderate about how we're driving and they don't even see me. It's like I have an invisibility cloak on and they drive and pull right out in front of me. Okay, so that's kind of like telling a story. Let's say, you know what else I hate? I have neighbors around me. I have a fenced-in backyard, and all of our fences butt up against each other's yards. Every single person around me, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 houses in my backyard. Every single one of them has dogs. And so if I'm outside and they're outside, it's because it's nice out, all their dogs are out, everybody's barking, and it's just like not this peaceful backyard. Another story. Now, do I want change? Yes. I am a change maker. I am a trailblazer. I am a pioneer, right? An entrepreneurial spirit. I want to make change. So it was 900 degrees a couple of summers ago, and Amy and I put up a privacy fence. That has definitely helped limit the barking and this wild, crazy yard fence running that dogs do. If you have a dog and your neighbor has a dog, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They run up and down the fence. Well, that led to our little tiny dog having back surgery because she stopped and the big dog didn't and railroaded her and blew a disc. So she ended up having back surgery at 2 years old. And everything is great. She's great, but privacy fences were needed. So sometimes it's about telling a story. Sometimes it's about the catalyst for change. And for us, it was the catalyst for change. We complained enough about it, and then we decided to do something about it. The next, and I already mentioned this, is connecting with others, is getting us to find common ground to complain together. Oh yeah, my boss this. Oh yeah, he does that. Oh yeah, traffic. Oh yeah, traffic for me. I told you I've been out in stores before where I've seen 2 people, a cashier and a customer, or 2 workers, where they're, standing out front smoking and they're just one-upping each other with a complaint. I've seen that so many times. And it's almost like I want to walk up to them and go, okay, who do you think wins? And they'd look at me all dumbfounded. I'd be like, you guys are like competing with your complaints. Who's going to win? and then just and then just walk away. I just don't understand. But I do understand, because I understand the reasons why we do it, and I understand what we're trying to do. And what I think we're trying to do sometimes is we're trying to get attention through the complaining, where there's sympathy, empathy, or understanding. We want to be heard. We want people to understand how hard our life is, because nobody really cares how great your life is. Well, that's not always true. But I will say it's kind of sad, where I want to hear the great things that are happening in your life. As a coach and as somebody who raises people up and elevates people's lives, I want you to tell me all the great things that are going on in your life. And I will share in that success with you and support you in wonderful praise and value about what you're doing in your life to bring about good change and positive change. The last, and this is definitely something I remember really, really wanting to do, is as something was happening and I'm complaining about it, is I'm trying to release it. I'm trying to elicit change, but releasing the energy of what I'm complaining about. Now, I know maybe that doesn't make a lot of sense to you, but it is like the stuck hose, the kinked hose. And as I complain about the water not coming out of the sprinkler on the other end, what I'm not doing, though, is actually letting go of the hose. I'm keeping the kink there by talking about it. And even though I think, well, I've got all this energy because I'm frustrated or angry or whatever, is that I want that thing to be remedied. And so I think that I'm going to remedy it by talking about it. But what actually happens is I keep it there. I keep it kinked. But yet so many people around us go, you just need to let that go. When you're getting going and you're upset about something and you're going through whatever you're going through and you just keep talking. And then someone out there says, you should just let that go. And that is so true. Intuitively, that person is giving you the correct advice. But right in your mind, you're like, how in the world do I let this go? Well, the very first step, and this is huge, and this is so, so important, is to accept wherever you're at and wherever you're stuck. Because from this place of acceptance, you now can create something new. But this is no different than if I'm staring at this space over here and I'm complaining, and I just can't let it go, and I can't change the subject, and I can't talk about anything else. You can't create from that space. It is only until you say, okay, that's how things are. This is the situation I'm in. This is where I'm at, and I accept it. The only thing we do as we accept something is we just allow it to be. That's the first step. Allow it to be there. Doesn't mean we like it. Doesn't mean we love it. But we're going to end the kink in the hose. We're going to kind of let it flow for a moment. And then when we can get to that neutral place, then we look over here to try to make change, to try to solve the problem if we need to. Okay? But let's move to number 2, the detriment it causes. Now, when we are trying to release the energy of the thing that we're complaining about, because we're giving it attention, we are actually creating more of the thing we complain about. Now, I used to teach parenting classes to schools, and it was parenting type tools and techniques. So if you were a parent and or a teacher, it was just about relating to kids. And I remember being on stage telling all these teachers, there's probably, 100 teachers and assistants and stuff like that in this room, in this gymnasium. And I'm giving this talk, and I remember saying, try to ignore the attention that you don't like. And there was a teacher there that was just like beside herself with that. And the more I talked with her, the more, and she stood up and we had this conversation in front of everybody. She just went on and on and on about all of the kids in her classroom that have all of this bad behavior. And I said, how much attention do you give that behavior? And she goes, well, she goes, that's all I do all day long, as I am putting fires out. I am putting fires out. I am just over there talking to those two, and I'm over here talking to this one, and I'm, and it's all the same behavior. And I said, how long have these kids been in your class? It's all year. And of course, this talk is in May. And it's all year long, and all these kids are, just misbehaving like crazy. She goes, I can hardly teach because all I'm doing is putting this behavior out. And I said, what would happen if just for the rest of the week, it's Tuesday, what would happen if for the rest of the week you ignored that behavior, unless, of course, I always have to preface this, that it's not an unsafe behavior. If those two back there are just talking, or if that one up there gets out of his seat and goes over there, can you ignore that behavior? Redirect if you have to, but don't give attention to that behavior. Can you try that for the next 3 days? Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And she says, well, if it's unsafe behavior, can I intervene? I said, yes, of course. Kids need to be safe. Of course. You don't ignore the 3-year-old that's running out into the road. You go get him. You go give attention to that behavior. So now a week later, I'm having this email exchange with her, and she goes, I have some really great news and I have some really bad news. I said, okay. The really great news is my class, by the time Friday afternoon came around, she's like, I finally could get the attention of my class. She goes, it made me a better teacher because now instead of putting fires out, I'm becoming the center of attention in a way that is directing my kids to pay attention to me. So she's like, I was able to kind of, I'm going to use these words because these are the words that I use in my podcast, but she's like, she didn't say it like this, but I kind of elevated myself. I became a better version of myself as a teacher to get their attention so I could teach. And the behavior really, really subsided by the time Friday came around. And I said, great. That's awesome. That's amazing. Like, I love that. I love hearing that. And I said, and thank you for sharing. Right. And then she goes, but the really bad news is that the teacher across the hall now wants to put 4 of her kids into my classroom. I said, well, it's not really bad news. And she goes, well, they've got some behavior issues. I said, well, now here's the thing. You know what to do. Like, you know how to do things, right? And I said, and now you're going to be the go-to. So it can happen. Things can shift and change in such a short period of time. And I kind of love having that secret. Like, I've said 1,000 times, I've read 1,000 books, and I've studied for, it feels like years and years, like literally since I was like in my mid-20s. So like 25 years, I've been studying to get to this point where it's such a simple idea, but I had to go through a lot of different, I want to say like education and books to understand the concept of things. And that's what I want to teach you. That I have so many clients that come up to me that say, I want to work with you. I want to coach with you. I love your podcast. Your podcast has changed my life. And I say, what's going on? Like, what's happening in your life? And they're like, I'm in this crappy relationship. I've got this teenager issue. I've got substance abuse issue. I've got this crappy job. I've got this ill health. And it goes on, right? It's just probably stuff that you're dealing with. And I go, what are you doing to change it? And every single one of them is like, not much. I'm listening to your podcast. And I said, okay, now it's time to take action. Now it's time to stop doing that and start doing this. Now it's time to accept where you are and start taking some little steps. Every single one of my over 400 podcast episodes, I give you one nugget. And in that one nugget is where action meets the road. This is where the tires meet the pavement. Change is so available to you, and good positive change, whether it's better health, better relationships, deeper connections, more creativity. And I just mean like being able to create things in your life and more money, a better job, living your purpose, feeling happier. You guys, it is time to take action in your life. It is time to push the button. It's time to take the steps. It's time to get the journal out and write these things down that I'm asking you to write down. Because so many times I see the people coming in with the same problems and the same stuff, and it's been years and now 2 years and 3 years. And I'm like, when is it going to be time? What if you did one little thing at a time? What if you just began a meditation practice? What if you just began to visualize? What if you just stopped complaining and started talking just a little bit better, little bit more positive, right? I think that this is where like I said, what is it? The tires meet the pavement, where things really can start changing. You're going to start feeling better. You're going to start seeing wonderful things happening in your life. And you're going to go, oh my gosh, that's what she says. This shit works. I'm like, yes, it does. And this is why I keep going. And I'm standing in my living room right now, recording this episode and going, it's time. It's time to push the button. It's time for change. It's time because you deserve it. You are capable of doing this. You are capable of making this change happen, and you deserve to be happy, healthy, abundant, the greatest job, living your purpose, feeling like you belong. And it's time. It's time. It's time. It's time. Write that down. It's time. And I have a note right here on my desk that says, Jen, your time is up. Let's go. And it is all about, it's like, stop getting in that space that doesn't go anywhere. You're in the mud hole spinning your wheels. You're on the treadmill. You're on the hamster wheel. It's time to go, right? It is time to take this nugget and put it into place. And if this isn't the right nugget, you're not a complainer, well, then that's okay. The next episode, take that nugget, right? Or 16 episodes ago, or 200 episodes ago, take that nugget and put it into place. That's my little inspirational speech right there. The detriment is that as we're complaining, we're keeping that thing in our life. I know sometimes it's hard. Here's what I want you to do is take the thing that you're complaining about and talk about it in such an easy way. Like, don't get your emotions involved. That's less creative. Tell the story. Let's say you got 10 seconds, you got 1 minute, tell the story and then be done with it. And be like, okay, I'm done. Make the decision. Stop talking about it. When you stop talking about it, other things will show up, because what you're actually doing is you are keeping the pain in your body. Now that pain is in the form of stuck energy, right? And so it doesn't matter what you're complaining about. It's the energy of complaining. It's the energy of complaining. Now, sometimes you need to move energy. Anger and frustration are very big, vibrant moves. They're big energy, right? You have to move your arms. You have to move your head. You have to move your whole body. Great. Go downstairs and work out. Go to the gym and work out. Go outside. Jump rope. Go for a walk. Go kayaking would be amazing to do when you're feeling angry, because it's all upper body. Go kayaking. Go for a run. Go for a fast walk. Move your arms. Do some yoga, but fast. Like, move your body quickly. That helps to dissipate the energy. So we stop telling the story, get into releasing the energy if that's what you're trying to do. And I've done that. And it's amazing how good it works, but we want to just keep getting in the story. We want to keep telling the story over and over again. And right there, you have to tell yourself, you know what? Stop telling the story, start releasing the energy if that's what I'm trying to do. Or you go, why am I complaining right now? Why am I complaining? Sometimes when I'm uncomfortable, I complain. Too hot, too cold, hungry, tired, I complain. And then sometimes I want somebody to do something for me. So it's not really connecting. I don't want them to tell me that they're hungry. I don't want them to tell me about their bodily temperatures. I want them to do something about it. Help me. It's kind of like a call for help. Help me, right? So that's like another reason. I'm like, can you change the temperature in the house? Or can you change the temperature on the outside? No. I can go get you a sweatshirt though. Perfect. I'll do that, right? Okay. So now the third is, what do we think it does? We think it deepens our connections with others. We think that it releases the energy. We think that it's going to make change. If I complain about my kids doing this, and that, or I complain about my boss not giving raises, is that going to make him give us a raise? Listen, the answer is no. It's not going to make your kids behave. I saw a t-shirt. Amy and I went to a festival in this tiny little town. It's a mushroom festival. It was hugely popular. Thousands and thousands of people and cars, and holy moly, it was like a flea market with all like the outdoor vendors, and then tons of crappy food and what do you call it? Like an amusement park, all the rides and the Ferris wheel and all those spinny things that make you dizzy and want to throw up. And then there's fries and popcorn and tacos and cotton candy and kettle corn and all that stuff, pop and whatever. So we're walking around, and I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. It's Mother's Day. And I see this lady walk by, and she's with, 8, 10 people, kids, husband, sister, girlfriend, whoever. And she has a shirt on, I kid you not, that reads, "I'm the proud mama of a bunch of dumbass kids." I'm a proud mama of a bunch of dumbass kids. I couldn't believe it. We walked by and I say to Amy, I'm like, oh my gosh. And she's like, what? And I said, you just read that lady's shirt? And she goes, no. And I tell her, and she goes, well, I hope her kids aren't with her. I said, her kids probably got it for her. So, when we call our kids or when we interact with them in that way, that behavior is getting magnified. And what that symbolizes is that as we magnify that behavior, we keep getting that behavior. I was a teacher for a long time, and I've worked with kids. I was an assistant director and a teacher at a daycare, an in-home daycare, and a Head Start program, which is kind of like a preschool program. And we practiced all of these things that I was learning. And that was there for 10 years. And then I worked in one school for 3 years, another school for 5 years. And I've worked with kids and I worked at camps and whatever. And I know from all of these years of experience is that if you give attention to that behavior that you don't want to see, you will continue to get that behavior. So what do we do? What do we do about it? Well, the first step, and I already gave it to you, is you have to accept where you are. Now, here's what I like to do. I already mentioned a couple of times that Amy's going through some stuff at work. And I was heading to my mom's for Mother's Day. So I'm driving in the car. She calls me on the phone and she's really upset. And she's really having a hard time dealing with like a lot of overwhelm. That is still a thing, right? We're still working on it and it's okay because we have to release all of the energy around it. So I start talking to her and she starts telling me the story. Now remember, if we look at the top layer, that's the story. The story is the energy. So write that down. The story is the energy. So if I'm saying something like, I'm just so sick and tired of, that's the energy. That's the clue that the energy that is in there is stuck. So if you were to take those words of the story and write them down, you would see what energy is stuck where. Now, what I'm trying to get her to do, and what I try to do, and what she tries to get me to do is, do you want to keep telling the story? Meaning, do you want to keep feeling this way? Do you want to keep feeling, I'm so sick and tired of? Do you want to keep feeling overwhelmed? If you don't, you have to stop. That top layer is stop telling the story. The second step is release the energy. Release the energy around it. Let go of the stuckness. Okay? If you let go of the stuckness, now you can see where you can problem solve, because you cannot problem solve from the story. You're too stuck in the story. So stop telling the story, get to this place of acceptance, release the energy around it, then problem solve. Then, now that you're feeling better, now you can start to see a little bit clearer. It's like you have to get rid of you have to move the energy. That's like having the hose kinked and then being mad about the pressure that's building up between the kink and the spigot. Right? That pressure, where the kink is, the pressure is building up because the water is still flowing through there. And you're complaining about this pressure. And it's like, well, you got to let go of the pressure. Like you have to let go. You have to let go of the story. Let go of the story. Let go of the story. Stop telling the story, release the energy, tell a new story. That's it, you guys. I know it sounds so simple, but here's the thing. When you have momentum built up around the story, you can do it. Somewhere in there's a tiny little voice that says, this is just a story. It's just a belief. Let this go. Let it go. Let just the story go. Then from there, work at just the energy level. That's what I do. That's what I live for. That's me and my Ursula voice. Amy is really, really good at Ursula. I told her that when we have a live event, I am going to call her on stage and we're going to play The Little Mermaid, the Ursula song. She's amazing at it. She really is. She would kill me if I had her come on stage. She would totally never do it, but I really want her to because she's really good at it. Anyhow, so let it go. Stop telling the story. Let the energy go. Tell a new story. So I hope you do this. I hope that somewhere in there, as you're telling a story, that you hear those words, and that little tiny voice that you hear is my voice saying, you can do it. You deserve a new story. You deserve a new, great, grand life that you create. So I hope you do this work. Again, it's just one nugget. Here's your chance. Let's do it. Let's go. Now, I know I gave you a lot just now, but here's the thing. If you are a member, the following episode is a member area episode where I'm going to walk you through the practice that I use myself to help me release things that I'm complaining about. Now, these are typical things that you incessantly complain about. You wake up and you complain about your health. You wake up and as you're getting ready for work, you're complaining about work. Now you're in traffic and you're complaining about traffic. All of these things are detrimental to your growth, to your elevation, to you living the most magnificent life. So if you're not a member, please become a member and you will get and have access to all of these episodes. And as soon as you become a member and you have access, you are going to see the next episode that is for members about my technique that is so powerful on releasing the things that you complain about.